David hopes to study mining engineering at Adelaide Uni, and in 10 years' time, he hopes to be a billionaire.
It's youngest shark and inventor of the Oodie. It's entrepreneur Dave Ferguson.
I want to show you exactly how I went from being in school, thinking that I was too stupid to do anything great in this world, to being the youngest judge on Shark Tank ever, sitting in rooms with like Mark Cuban, Robert Herjavec, and growing a company to $1 billion in top-line sales. I used to hate my life. I used to hate myself. Now I live an incredible life, and it's all because business has changed my life in such a powerful way, and it can for you as well. There's a common misconception that with business owners or successful people, they were born successful. They came out of the womb and they were just winning medals. That's just so not true. You need what is called the failure stack. And my failure stack is so bad. Honestly, if you looked at me when I was creating businesses early on, you would have been like, this kid is going nowhere. But that is the prerequisite to success. I failed more times than anyone has even tried, like in these early stages. The very first failure that I had taught me so much. I loved eating Vietnamese rolls, and I was like, I am going to launch a Vietnamese roll cafe. Obviously, it's a very traditional kind of dish, but I loved them so much. And they were trending on Facebook. I kind of understood a little bit of Facebook. So I went, and there was one next to my gym, and I used to train a lot back then. I was like, this is easy. I'll go to the gym, I'll come make some rolls, I'll make some money. So I rented my first ever lease, which was a nightmare as well. Bought a bunch of random equipment from a cafe around the street, which, by the way, I needed none of it. I remember sitting there just like, oh, I need a bain-marie, I need this to warm up all of the meat. And I had bought none of all of those important equipment. So I basically just lost all of my initial investment on day one. But I finally just kind of pushed through until I could finally open the store. When I opened the store, I thought I was going to be a heap successful. I remember day one, someone came in and gave me a $5 note. And it was the best feeling, just like feeling physical money, because there's something different about holding physical money. And the smile on my face when there was actually a lineup that first day was just incredible. But the writing was actually on the wall the whole time, because after that day, I didn't even know how to do accounting. I was like, wow, I've got this big stack of cash, but I spent way more than I was actually making. And over the weeks, I was just like, I did a little bit of optimization. I would drop the costs of my carrots by going to another supplier. I would do a different supplier for meat. I would do more myself, so I couldn't hire any staff. And every single week, I was like, I'm gonna make money, but it never came. And over time, I started to actually lose connection with my friends. I wasn't going out ever. I would just sit there and I would wash dirty dishes morning and night. And it was so greasy because it was roast pork. I remember the smell. It was just get all over me. I would stop training as well. Something that made me so happy and made me who I was just going to the gym all the time. And I didn't train for a whole year after training every single day. And I fell into this state of depression. I didn't want to get out of bed anymore. I'd found no joy in anything. And that was really, really a low point for me. And the fact that it got even worse was really kind of worrying now, I think, back at those times, because at the same time, the only way that I was funding this store was I had these Instagram pages. I would create pages and I would grow them to lots of followers using a shout for shout method. So I would say to this page, I'll post you, you post me, and then both we would grow a little bit, would drop a few followers because it was a bit annoying for the followers, but at the same time we would grow. And then I could go to brands that were selling weight loss tea or anything like that and say, hey, I'll sell a post for $20. So I managed to fund the Vietnamese Roll Cafe through this. But unfortunately, when I started to get greedy there as well, even I wasn't focused there because I was focusing on Vietnamese rolls. And I ended up buying an Instagram and it was like $30,000. I was like, this is going to be incredible. Turns out it was hacked. And then I lost all of that money. Honestly, at that period of time, I was just losing across the board all of the time. I'll never forget in that moment, my dad, who was running a small furniture store at that time, that's where a lot of my inspiration to become an entrepreneur has stemmed from. He obviously had dealt with resilience before in his past, and I could not get out of bed. When I say that, I don't say it lightly. I just couldn't be bothered. And he came in And I was just constantly just saying, oh, the $30,000. Oh, this isn't working. And he's like, right, get up. And we had a gravel driveway at that time. This is the old house. I just recently bought them a new house. But I'll never forget this gravel driveway because you'd always walk on it with bare feet and the rocks were so sharp. And he grabbed my shoes and put a handful of rocks in my shoes, made me put my foot in there, and he's like, walk. So I walked down and it hurt every single step. Then he tipped out the rocks. He's like, put the shoes on again. I put them on and he's like, now walk. And I was like, obviously it doesn't hurt anymore. And he's like, that's the key. You just need to let things go. You need to build the resilience and the ability to keep going. Because in the end, nothing that actually happens to us matters. It's purely how we react. Think about all of the past experiences that you have that you just don't even remember. That maybe they shape some of your psyche, maybe they shape some of your soul, but realistically, they don't actually compute in your brain. If you can make these bad experiences, either that or even something else, something positive, where you go, I remember this. I remember how I pushed through. I remember that I kept going, even though I had these experiences. That is the key. That is what every single billionaire, millionaire, athlete, they all share that quality. They learn from their mistakes and they don't dwell on things. Another beauty about business is what it unlocks for you. I've never told this story because I didn't really know if it was my place to actually tell it, but I think there is a powerful lesson. When I started out, I had a mentor and I really wanted to get some like formalized mentorship because I was young. I was doing 50 businesses. I just started to find a little bit of success with like consulting, doing some videography, running ads and that kind of stuff. And then, so I met this guy and I sat down with him. He was getting nothing from this. He was a kind man. He was successful. And he taught me about goal setting and what I want to achieve in life, not only in just next year, but like in 10 years, which seemed completely foreign to me. This would have been like, I guess 10 years ago now, maybe even a little bit longer. And I remember sitting with him at this cafe. We mapped out my goals. And then I asked him what his goals were. And he said he wanted to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And I was like, that's really, really cool. That's a cool goal. It's just like, how are you going to achieve that? And I was just so pumped for him. And he felt the energy from him as well. And then I had one more meeting with him. In the end, he ended up passing away. There was a tragic accident. And we didn't really keep in touch too much after those first two mentoring meetings, but I don't think he ever actually hit his goal. And I think that has always stuck with me because he had the ability and he was pushing himself to achieve it. But at the same time, it got cut off short. And I always understand now what people mean in terms of life is short. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have these goals where you sit in an office and you work 12 hours a day to achieve those goals. It's quite the opposite. It means that you need to work 14 hours a day to achieve that goal because at the end of it, achieving those goals is what really actually makes life worth living. And I've always gone back and forth. I started studying philosophy. I started listening to people that gave me permission to really back off and really try to be content in my own ability. A lot of these teachings, they really allowed me to kind of sit back and be content within my own self in its current state. And that is fine. There is a place for that. And there's a type of person that really, really wants that. But for me, when I finally gave myself permission to be who I really want to be, simply to create, to actually push myself to new heights, it allowed me to find a certain peace in motion. Peace in motion being I am pushing to achieve these goals, but I'm also content with regardless of what happens in that state. I will celebrate when I get to the top of the mountain, but I am also going to enjoy the view. And I think business allows you to, when you fail so many times, but you still have a good time on the way there, it makes you realize that business is just so much more about than making money. And I see this so much with people that I try to help in business. They call me and they're just like, I'm so stressed. And the only thing that I tell them is that if you follow the process and fall in love with the process, which is you show up every single day, you be a good person, you create value in the world, and you repeat that process and you don't stop, then you're guaranteed to be successful. Because if you love that process, you're successful every single day. And then the results just don't matter anymore. This is the key to actually longevity within entrepreneurship. Now, if I think about it, if everything went lights out for me next month and all I wanted to do was be a billionaire and I hadn't hit that, then my life would be a failure. But if I look at the world and I go, all I want to do is to experience life in its fullest. I want to travel. I want to drive nice cars. I want to spoil my friends. I want to buy my neighbor's house for my parents. And at the same time, I want to create value for customers. I want to enjoy building things that have never existed in the world. And I want to push myself to the limit. Then suddenly, if things went lights out next month, my life would have been a success. Now, the final thing that business really changed my life is the fact that I am sitting here with 2 cameras in front of me. And literally last month, I stood up for 7 hours talking in front of groups. Back when I was trying university, I failed university. I actually failed marketing, I think, in university, which is ironic. I had to stand up in front of a bunch of people and do a presentation around innovation of all things. Now, I hated university. I remember the person in the group emailed me like 2 weeks before, said, you have done nothing in this project, because I literally didn't even understand the project. But more importantly, the project was to stand up in front in the university and present the ideas. And my hands were clammy even thinking about it. They're even starting to get clammy now thinking about how I reacted to that. I was terrified. And I have had panic attacks in podcasts. I went into a podcast like a year ago and I had panic attacks there. The fact that I was able to present on TV through Shark Tank, even though I was having panic attacks before it, the fact that I can stand up on stage now and present in front of 300, 400 people was something that a younger Davey never would have believed that he could do. I was walking on the beach and I had just hit, I think, $250 million in sales in my companies. And I loved when someone came to me and I was like a friend and I could teach them Facebook ads. I was like, this is how you do it. And then they would come back the week after and they're like, I did what you said and I just made $1,000. And I was just like, my mind is blown. And I was just so excited. I was like, how can I not get this message out even more of the things that we're doing? But the problem was I was just so scared. I was so scared of presenting all of the time. And in that moment I was walking and I actually called one of my friends and I was just like, dude, I think I actually need to get in front of camera. And I remember my rationalizing was, right now I'm not ready to present in front of a camera. I stutter, I sweat, I'm so scared. But I knew that I needed to be the person that could stand in front of a camera. I needed to be a person that could deal with public ridicule, newspapers lying about me, to actually have the impact in the world. So even though I wasn't ready then, I knew I needed to get ready and I would become ready when the moment is really, really important. It's like becoming a parent. Everyone says when you have them, you just will step up in that moment. That's what you're going to be as a person, as a business owner. So right now you're sitting there, even if maybe you've got a little startup or you've tried it and failed a couple of ideas. And you're like, imagine if I had to manage 10 employees, or imagine I had to spend 10 times as much as this on marketing. How would I even handle that? You absolutely figure it out, as I have done. And it's a constant process. So the final thing that business will teach you is the confidence to be great, but also the fact that you don't need to be great right away. You'll grow into it. If you like today's video, go check out our free AI video. I'll teach you everything you need to launch an AI e-commerce store. Peace.